Hello, everyone. I'm Rolando Garza. I'm here with Latino Theater Initiatives, and we are with Anthony Garcia. He is the owner and the director of Su Teatro Cultural here in Denver. Can you tell us a little bit about what Su Teatro Cultural is and what you do? And here, sure.
I am the executive artistic director. The community actually owns Su Teatro, right? Su Teatro Cultural and Performing Arts Center is an institution that comes out of the Chicano movement, Chicano theater movement. We are probably the third oldest ongoing teatro company, teatro Chicano company in the U.S. We are in our own facility on 7th and Santa Fe Drive, which is less within walking distance of downtown. It's an old neighborhood here. We produce a season of works. We have a lot of different programs that we do. We produce at least full-length productions a year. The company has produced more than 50 original works for the Chicano theater canon, and maybe 40 of them have music involved in them.
And what is the process of putting on a production, and what type of productions are we mainly see here in Su Teatro?
Su Teatro, over its history, has produced probably most of the major established playwrights in the field. Luis Valdez, of course, but also Octavio Solis, Evelina Fernandez, Culture Clash. A lot of people who were here at the conference, but we've also done Lorca and Rene Marquez. So we've done those works as well as produce our own original works. So we, because we have such a body of work, we're able to lean into that work over and over again. Since I wrote a lot of the stuff, it's really great because we get to just chop it up and fix it and do whatever we want to with it, so we can continue to produce it. This year we're celebrating our 50th anniversary, and we're focusing on the original works that we've done. And some of the pieces that we've done, one of the works that we did was a play called Bless Me Ultima, written by Rudolfo Naya, was one of the first Chicano novelists, and Bless Me Ultima was a very, very significant book for me growing up, and I was fortunate that Rodolfo gave us the opportunity to produce one of the original productions of that. And so Bless Me Ultima was significant. But as we go along, we utilize events such as this to get a chance to look at new playwrights, to look at new works, get an idea of what's going on in the field. Rather than, because I write, I don't read a lot of the scripts until we're moving towards production stuff, because that stuff has a way of seeping into your work, you know. It's only after I'm on stage I go, oh, I stole that from Luis Valdez, or I stole this from so-and-so. You find that later. So what we do is we have our actors and our creative team. A lot of times they read them. They read them. They make recommendations. We also in April do what we call our Word Fest, and during that time we start to bring in scripts that we're interested in producing and do readings, public readings. Public readings are really such a great way for producers to start to get a feel for what a show looks like. It's great for writers to kind of get a feel for what they're doing, what's working, what's not doing. When I'm in the audience, after my show opens, I sit in the audience. I don't necessarily watch the show. I watch the audience reaction, because that tells me so much more than what I think is going on in my own head.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I give you long answers to short questions, and you guys can chop it up as you want to.
No. Well, I should have asked this before, but can you tell us more about who you are and your history here in Denver? I don't know if you're from here in Denver, or...
I was born in the west side of Denver, where we're located. I was born in a neighborhood called the West Side. It's down. We were depopulated. We were moved out in order to build the Auraria campus. I tell you all of that stuff to say that I'm located less than a mile from the first house I lived in. I grew up living in this neighborhood quite a bit. I teach on that campus that we were displaced from, so I haven't really gone very far in my career. I am a long-term Denver resident. I was able to witness a lot of really significant things that were happening in Denver. Denver, a lot of people don't know, was a really important part of the Chicano movement, the civil rights movement at that time. And so many of those initial the West High School student walkouts took place here in Denver. There was a huge conference here that really shaped a lot of the ideology of the Chicano movement. All of that happened in this community, and protests, conflicts with the police. I was a little bit younger. I was a kid. I was a teenager, and I was able to witness those things. And those things shaped my life quite a bit. And I was a high school dropout. I eventually got my degree. I eventually became an associate professor at Metropolitan State University. So mostly what I was a smart aleck who saw everything as funny and you saw sarcasm as a real way of striking back at the system, at providing resistance, in strengthening our people. One of the things I keep hearing here at the Comedy Carnaval is how good we are at making fun of ourselves. The flip side is that we are even better at making fun of the dominant culture and making fun of the system. So yes, we're good at making fun of ourselves, but we're really good at making fun of you. So I saw humor as a way of striking back at the things we did. I was a musician. You could see the stuff. Not a great one, but enough of one to understand that stuff. So that's why our plays have so much humor and music in it. But they really have roots and depth. The things people can walk out the streets here and walk 2 blocks away, and they can see where students, high school students, 14, 15 years old, were being tear gassed and beaten by the police and fighting back with them. You can see that as you walk around this neighborhood. And that's where we are. And we are also been one of those groups that significantly believes in its own independence. And so this facility that you're in here, on one of the few facilities on this gentrified community here that is owned by the community, belongs to Su Teatro. Consequently, it belongs to the community. And we expect that by the end of the summer, it will be paid free and clear. So it will never leave the community.
Great. And what are I guess you have been faced by obstacles, right? Like with people wanting to maybe take this place out of here, or what kind of obstacles have you faced with people coming here? And
my mother used to tell me, my mother was a storyteller, so I learned a lot from her. She's always in my head. All of you guys, you have your mom in your head all the time, right? When you're doing something and you go, up, I know. I hear you. I'm not supposed to do that. Okay, I'll do it this way. And my mom used to always tell me we come from a long line of people who don't know better, which meant we didn't know what we weren't supposed to do. We didn't know and there were obstacles. Financially, I mean, we bought our first building without a penny in the bank. And just a note, a letter I sent out to our community asking for I needed $5,000 for the down payment. And I asked for 250 people to give me $20 a piece, and we were able to get it in less than 3 weeks. And it's been our history. We have had, 2 years ago, we didn't have air conditioning in this building, and you just kind of work towards the ends. I can tell you, so everything we've done has a lot to do with the resilience that we learned from my parents, from our ancestors. We didn't have stuff, and so we had to learn how to make them work. I can tell you something funny about this building. So this is the name of the original building. It says the Cameron Building. That was the original. I found that in the basement when we moved in here. These doors were in. We were in as part of our old building that we moved here from, right? And a lot of the woodwork that we use, I redid it from there. We wanted to have the little nichos in the walls, so that's very much of a New Mexican thing, and so much of our community comes from New Mexico and such. And then when the time came to paint it, I went downstairs and I pulled out whatever scrap paint we had, and I said, let's just start throwing it on the walls and stuff. So that's kind of, to me, this office, which people think is really like kind of slick. We had these kids who were graffiti artists that got in trouble for tagging, and I had them paint this. And I thought they were going to do this rag thing, where you they didn't do that. They put it down and then they lifted it up. And it came like this, and people come in here and go, how did you get this designed? How did you do this? And it's like, pura huevo, man. It's puro rascuachi. It's making something out of what you have. And that's been our history. I think there have been obstacles, but it also has to do with our goals. I think we have been historically marginalized by the dominant culture here, the dominant theater culture, hearing that we're not part of the canon, understanding that they go, well, that's kind of cool, but I think your politics is really didactic and you're not supposed to do this. All the things we were told we weren't supposed to do, but as my mother said, we didn't know better, and consequently we didn't care. and it wasn't our audience. I didn't care if they came, and I didn't care if they liked it. I only cared about our community and our relationship to it. I figured they would catch up, and it's happened over the years. We've had a lot of really successful experiences here. I think we're established not only within our community but in the region, because we tour quite a bit, and we have a lot of national relationships and stuff. So that's the effects that we've had, and the positive is that you see multiple generations here. That our kids, Teatro Volarte, right? We tell them the art that flies, and this is a group that's our kids are rehearsing in one of the other spaces at the same time we have the Comedy Carnaval in the other space. So what that tells you a lot, right? We have this national gathering, and then we have on the local barrio kids who are starting to get their artistic chops developed and stuff like that. So that's I don't know. I kind of rambled a little bit with that, so sorry about that.
No, that's perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, so the last question. What would you say? I'm going to ask the same question we did to Emilia. What would you say to all the
to
young...
a telephone that's ringing in the middle of your interview?
Yes.
Let's give it a second. We
Okay.
can go right to it. One more time. Okay. Well, it rings 4 times and then it stops.
Oh. I think it's 3.
Somebody may have picked up that one.
Okay. What would you say to all the young Latinos that are wanting to start their journey in theater here in the United States?
I would say, I think everybody's going to tell you this, and it's just to follow what your instincts are, and don't listen to no's, but also think of no's as opportunities to find out how to make them yeses. Dig into your culture, dig into your community. You will find probably 20 years down the road that your family and your family's influence just pops up all over you. You will find mentors that you had that you didn't even know that you had. And you got to do your work. You got to do your work. The stage is a sacred space, and you should not be up there if you're not ready to do something extraordinary. If you're not ready to do something that is beyond just now people are paying attention to me. It's hard work, and you got to read, and you got to practice, and you got to and you don't actually. We always say there's no such thing as a bad idea. It's just an idea that may not be working at this time. So spit it out, and if it gets kicked aside, it doesn't go away. I could tell you so many things that we're still doing. I had this idea. Do you want me to tell you this story?
Yeah.
And then you could delete it.
Yeah.
So we had this idea, right? Do you remember the movie Chariots of Fire? Did you ever see that movie?
No.
It takes place in England, and it's about these guys who were going to be in the Olympics, and they had this song by this guy, and it go da 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 da. Do you ever hear that? Da da, and they run in slow motion because they're practicing to go to the Olympics. My idea was to have an immigrant running towards the border in slow motion to that music, right? And all the things that would be happening there. And then I tried to get people to do it, and none of them did it. It just sucked every time they did it. And it was like, so then finally, about 20 years later, we were doing something, and the idea came back to me. And we had a guy whose body was perfect for it. And he was like swiggling and jiggling, and they put the rope out there, and he comes to the border, and he gets stopped. It was hysterical. People were crying. They were laughing so hard. But there's a poignancy in that and stuff. So it wasn't a bad idea. It just wasn't an idea that was going to work at that moment and stuff. So I learned a lot. I learned a lot from those things. But I do a lot of late nights. I go home tired. I get grappled. Everybody. So that's what you're going to get. As a director, I don't believe that my job is to flatter the actors, let the audience pat them on the back. My job is to kick their butts until they're good, is to make them better. And if a director is just making you feel good, he may not be the best, or she or he may not be the best director there is. My job is to make you as good as you possibly could be on that opening night, and then let the audience adore you, because they're much more valuable for you anyway.
Right. Okay.
Sorry.
Thank you so much. Okay, well, that's it. This was Anthony Garcia, and I'm Rolando Garza with Latino Theater Initiatives. Thank you so much.